Welcome back. Thank you all for joining us. This is the greatest podcast ever made. That's what I always say. I am one of your hosts. I am Michael. That is your other host, Reggie. Say hi, Reggie.
Hi, Reggie.
A few things I want to get out of the way real quick. First of all, Reggie, I listened to this like 16 times in a row. There is a new song. Well, I guess it's still new, relatively. Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak, who Reggie always calls Pac. But Anderson Paak actually have a new song, and they are actually recording an album together, which really excites me. And the first single is out, and I have been listening to that mess like all. I was listening to it all last night, and
Actually, I heard about it. I just haven't listened to it yet.
oh
And it
yeah,
is Pac because I have a Korean friend who has the same last name and she pronounces it Pac.
that's like saying you have like a Mexican friend named Smith, and he calls it Smeeth. If Anderson calls himself Pack, I'm going to call him Pack.
I knew you were gonna say
The only one who calls him Pac is your Korean friend and Alexa.
Hey, can't beat Alexa.
Hey, like they said in Coming to America, if his mama called him
Call it
Clay,
Pac.
I'm gonna
I'm
call
gonna
him
call him
Clay.
Clay.
Speaking of which, I watched that sequel a couple of nights ago, and that mess is whack. But
Okay, because I'm hearing conflicting stories on that. So I'm
I
glad you
don't.
said that.
I think that's one of those things when you say it's conflicting. I think it's one of those things where people that say it's good, they just want to support it just because. So it's like they want to see good in it, so they see good in it that's not there, and that's what it is. Anybody that watched that movie objectively cannot say that they felt that that was a good movie. That must was whack. That must was trash.
I mean, I just thought the premise was kind of whack in the first place. So he has an illegitimate son off of a tryst he had when he was in New York. But if you go back to the original story,
Right.
he
And
met his soul. Was it so? Well, that's
oh, the
Sogo.
soul
Sorry,
girl.
but he met his queen. And is she even in the movie?
Yeah, she is, and she is not holding up well.
Uh,
Um,
okay,
I'll just
she was
say
looking good back then though.
yes, she was. Yes, she was, and she looks like never mind. But shoot, Eddie Murphy's like 60, 59 or 60. Arsenio Hall is like 65. That shocked me.
I didn't know he was older than Eddie. Huh.
I did not know he was that old, and I didn't. Well, I thought they were around the same age, but shoot, he is like retirement age, which he looks good for 65. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have guessed it. Cleveland's own, shout out. Um, so those are two things. A couple other things I want to mention. One, and this doesn't have anything to do with dating, as if either one of those things had anything to do with dating. I find it interesting though. There are people that have entrepreneurial mindsets, and then there are people that have working 9 to 5 mindsets. And
Mhm.
then there are people that have hybrid mindsets where
Mhm.
it's like they work, but then they might have an idea and they see where they can take that idea.
Mhm.
The problem is, I don't know if you ever saw this, Reggie, but like a couple years ago, Dame Dash was on the Breakfast Club, and he just basically spent his whole time shitting on people that work 9 to 5s. He just felt like everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Actually, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yep. And also, and look at him now, but that's neither here nor there. Well, never mind. I'm not going to shit on Dame Dash any more than Jay Z already has. But
He probably thank you for that.
yeah, yeah. But it's interesting that, in the movie Hollywood Shuffle, a movie that Reggie hasn't seen because Reggie doesn't see movies, that was where the phrase not necessarily was coined, but they refer to it as there's always work at the post office because for older black people, they used to always talk about don't follow your dreams, get a job at the
At the
post
post
office. That's
office.
where you work. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people from our generation have that same post office mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way that I defended 9 to 5ers because I'm a 9 to 5er at heart, when Dame Dash shit on us for being 9 to 5ers and not pursuing entrepreneurial dreams, I find it interesting that 9 to 5ers want to shit on entrepreneurs when they have dreams or hybrids when they have dreams. I
Mm-hmm.
say all that to say this. I have had a couple of business, and even though this podcast is a hobby of mine, it is still something that I enjoy and something that could eventually bear fruit. But over the past week, I have come in contact with way too many people, and one could be too many, that love me, but still
Shit on
still,
you like Damon, like Jay
well,
Z, Damon Dash.
not like Dame Dash, but they take an opportunity to like laugh or mock shit. And it's like funny to me. And I'm just like, first of all, are you happy doing what you're doing? And it's like, just because you have the post office mindset, why do you feel the need to mock someone who doesn't? Now, I can see if you're dealing with someone who is irresponsible and someone is like, well, if you do that, that means you're gonna be living in my basement or you're gonna be borrowing money from me every week. But I am fortunate in that I have not borrowed a dime from anyone since 1993. And I've done all right. I've had businesses, they've all had different degrees of success, but I just don't understand that. I just don't understand that. I just don't understand that. But anyway,
But you still owe me my Obama house.
like I left my job. I was at the AJC, which is the newspaper in Atlanta, for 20 years, and I left that job in 2012. And I still have people who tell me, "You never should have left that job." It's like, all right, I got you. Anyway, you follow your dreams and you work till you die. Do what you do. I'm sorry, that was on my mind. Okay, one more thing I have to mention because I'm just on one today. I'm just
Yeah,
on one today.
I see.
And this brings us back to dating. There have been three things that have been really with dating, well, male female relations. Wouldn't call it dating or relationships, but it's like three things have been in the news recently over the past few weeks. One is the situation with Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York. And his story is interesting because he's being accused now of several women of inappropriate relations, sexual harassment in the workplace. And what made it worse was his apology, where he referenced the first accuser. He referenced the fact that she had been sexually assaulted in her past.
Oh goodness,
Andrew,
that's
Andrew,
not a good look, Andrew.
Andrew,
That's
Andrew,
not
you
a good
can't do
look.
that. And you can't be asking interns if they're virgins. Andrew, Andrew.
No, you cannot ask. No.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do
Uh,
that. But
even I know you can't do that.
which is saying something.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so that's one. The second thing is what's the second thing? Hold up. Oh, Les Miles is in the news. Also, he was in the news a few weeks ago, and now he was on suspension at Kansas. I don't know if they fired him yet, but it's Kansas. Who knows? Les Miles is a football coach who won a national championship over the Ohio State University while he was at LSU. While he was at LSU, it has now come out that he has been accused of sexual harassment of female students while at LSU. Les, Les, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's like, haven't we all learned from Bobby Petrino? Bobby Petrino was another football coach who started dating his one of his secretaries
GA.
who was
I
a
know it's
student.
GA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a grad assistant who was a student. Um Never mind the fact that he had a wife.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, we could throw that out.
Yeah, but I thought everyone would have learned from that. Now I understand when you're walking on the college campus, and last time I was on a college campus, I did notice that there were some of the co-eds that were attractive.
So
But 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 you kind of have to leave it there. You kind of have to just leave it there.
if you work there, you have to leave it there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. These
yeah.
old mother blankets, I
Don't set
understand.
yourself up.
Yeah, I
No.
understand privilege goes far, but not quite that far. And then that leads me to the last story that I have, which is kind of a little bit more gray, but it's interesting to me. There is a congressman. His name is Madison Cawthorn. He's a Republican, and for people that don't know politics all that well, he is one. He's in a wheelchair, and he is not paraplegic, and
Mhm.
he became that way because of a car accident that he got into with one of his friends. One of his friends that now he says didn't pull him out of the car, and while his friend came back and said, "Yes, I did." Anyway, what's interesting about his story is while he was in college, and he's like 24, he just got out of college yesterday.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's
Okay.
24, 25. So but while he was in college, now all of these things are coming out about how he sexually harassed women while he was in college, fellow co-eds. But what makes this interestingly unique is that the story from one of them goes that he had this move, and you know, Reggie, all men have like a signature move, something.
We have a move.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And-
The whole yawning. I'm on a yawning. Yeah.
Perfect example. Now, what this dude would do, he would get women, put them in their car, put them in his car, and drive them to some remote spot, kind of like Inspirational Point and Happy
I was
Days.
about to say inspirational point.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of like that. So he took this one up there one time and tried to make his move. She was like, "Nah, I'm not feeling that." So he became angry, and as
Ooh.
such, she demanded that he take her back to campus, which he did. But during the course of the drive back, she said that he drove at high rates of speed and he was angry. His whole demeanor changed and all of that. Now, did he try anything? No. Once she said no, he took her back, but he was angry about it. And he drove like a bat out of hell to get her back. Now she's claiming all of this and that. And while that makes him an asshole,
It makes him an asshole.
yeah, to say that he should lose his job now is interesting.
I mean, even though he's a Republican, he should lose his job over other things.
True,
Maybe not that.
true,
Maybe not that.
true, because he is far from a moderate.
Mm.
So yeah. So it was just three interesting news stories that I saw over the past couple of weeks that were really interesting to me. Um, and so that leads into our topic today. Because I guess we can talk. The way we transition this is we can talk about disrespect, and one of the more disrespectful terms that you can use to refer to another person, whether you be a male or a female, depending on how you use it or how you mean it, and that's the word bitch. Now,
Bia,
Reggie,
bia. Stop acting like a punk, like a punk. Bia, bia.
okay, so Reggie, first question is: have you ever called a man a bitch?
Outside of you, no.
I was about to say, I don't know why you're taking so long to figure that one out.
No, I was thinking about anybody outside of you.
And just a little bit of a backstory on that. This is actually funny to me.
Yeah, it is. It's
Uh,
funny.
Me and Reggie were going back and forth about something. I don't even remember what it was, but it started to get a little heated, but not heated to the point where we were gonna like fight or something like that. But Reggie called me a bitch. And okay, I'll let that one go.
No, I didn't call you a bitch. I said stop acting like a bitch.
I don't know. I think
Okay,
he called me a
whatever.
bitch.
Semantics. Go ahead.
Yeah. So going back and forth, he did it again. After the third time, he said, if you call me a bitch one more time, you're gonna have to show me that I'm a bitch. And so we made peace after all of that. And from that, we made a joke out of it where it's like, you get 3 times to call me a bitch a year. And then that fourth time, we fighting on that.
And it's funny because I always wait to the end of the year and load up.
Yeah. It has been New Year's Eve at like 11:59, and Reggie would be like, yo, I forgot to tell you something. Like, what? He's like, bitch, bitch, bitch. Just weird stuff. All right, Reggie. This is the bigger one though. Have you ever called a woman a bitch? Either in anger or as a pleasantry?
Pleasantry, yes.
Okay.
Anger, no.
Okay. Those things are important. Um, I have never called a man a bitch that I can recall. And we'll get into the reason for that in a minute. And as far as a woman is concerned, I've called female friends bitches before in jest, but only in jest. Now, I can't honestly say if I did in anger when I was 20, because I was a whole lot more angry when I was 20, and I might have said some foul
Well,
stuff when I was 20.
let's back up with the anger part because it's almost like how, going back to our story, when I was at the stop acting like a bitch versus think a bitch,
No,
and then that is a difference.
no, I think it's a big difference, but I don't think that's what you did. But
Okay. Anyway, but
yeah, but
I have said the stop acting like a bitch. Why you being like a bitch? Versus look at bitch.
yeah, and that's the thing. I can't like I've said to men before that they're acting like bitches, but
Yeah.
I can't. It wouldn't surprise me if a woman that I dated when I was 20 came to me and said, "Yeah, you called me a bitch" when we were arguing. But I don't remember doing it, and that's not definitely it's definitely not something that I've done in the recent future or even in recent past or even in the long past. I got off that a long time ago, if I ever was on that. I don't remember. But here's the thing. That word means different things to different
Different
people.
people.
And when a woman says it to another woman, it can be it's more of a term of endearment, almost like a badge of honor. When a woman says it to a man, we'll come back to when a woman says it to a man.
Bro.
When a man says it to a woman, it can be a term of endearment, especially if it's a gay man saying it to a woman, or even if it's a straight man saying it to a woman. Uh, but a man saying it to a man
Those
is
are fighting
never
words.
good.
Those are fighting words.
Yo, a woman saying it to a man is never
Never
good
good.
unless the man is gay. So
True.
what I want to deal with are those two when it's not good. And the reason this comes up,
Hold
well,
on, let me walk back. There's one person that I may have called a bitch to, but because she has another word that you can't use to actually be a slur.
oh my goodness.
So
Oh my goodness. Like the N-word?
no.
Oh. Ooh, I was about to
Uh
say.
it's I'm sitting out of anger. So yeah, you've been a bitch right now, or something like that. So I have said that to her, but I've never said, and she has, like I said, she has an equivalent word to what we're talking about when I'm trying to slander her. And I've never, I don't care how angry, and I've gotten kind of angry with her. I've never called her that word.
Okay.
It's the C word.
Oh.
And
For some
if you call a woman that, yeah, you
it,
don't.
it's weird. For some reason, that word is like super disgusting to me. That is something I've
It
never
is.
called anyone. I don't know, just the way it rolls off the tongue
It's
just doesn't
that
feel right.
you know, and you know, if anyone listening to this podcast know, sometimes I get a little liberal with the words. Uh, you heard me say the C word. I can't even say that word.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm definitely not saying it. It's just something about it. It just rings.
Just I want to punch guys who call women that word.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's move off of that. Now let's get into the man calling the man that first and foremost. Um, and then we'll get to women calling men that and their reasons and all of that good stuff.
Actually, I
But
think it's connected. Actually, it
um,
is connected. It's the same meaning.
well, and
Well,
that's
same connotation. Same connotation.
yeah, but there's a little bit more to it. There's a I agree it's the same meaning. I think there's more to it when a woman says it to a man, and that's why
Okay.
I wanted to separate them.
Okay, I got you.
But to
I
the
got you.
meaning though, when a man calls another man a bitch, what does that man mean by that?
Oh, you asking?
Yeah, because I have my definition or opinion or whatever, and I just want to get what yours is.
You're salt and wheat.
Okay, and what I the way I define it is basically saying no offense, even though I'm about to offend you, is you're acting like a woman. And most of the time, when I hear men call another man a bitch, it's basically them saying you're acting like a woman. And because usually when a man is being called a bitch, it's usually because of some sensitive thing that he's done, which can be confused with something sensitive that a woman would do. If a man expresses emotion that's a little bit too extreme, he's a bitch. If a woman does that same thing or expresses emotion in that same way, it's acceptable. It's normal for them to do that. But if a man does it, he's acting like a bitch. If a man whines too much or complains too much, people will say he's acting like a bitch.
See, I think that's why I think the definition that I did when I had to walk back, excuse me calling someone a woman that word because I use it the same way. When she's crying too much, I'd be like, "Why you act like a bitch?" And that whining, "Why you act like a bitch?" Because, like I said, my definition: you're being salty, you're being weak.
And see, that's interesting because I don't use it in that way.
Okay, I
At
get
least
it.
I have not toward a woman, at least because, like I said, if my definition is a dude is acting like a woman, if a woman is acting that
Like a
way, it's hard to ask her why she's acting like a woman because that's what she is. Yeah. So I've never used that toward a woman in that way. And I will say, even going back in the day, like I said, I don't honestly remember calling a woman a bitch in anger. But if I did, it was more because kind of for the same reason that a lot of people use the N word nowadays. It's not even necessarily about them being racist or whatever. Oftentimes, it's just to get a reaction. It's like, what's the most negative thing I can say to you that will lead you to react to it? Or hurt your feelings or get a reaction or something like that. And if you're black, that's the N word. Now, you can debate whether they're racist for saying it at all or not. I don't know. But I know a lot of times that the easiest way to get a reaction from a black person is to call them that. And it's like, success. I've
But
achieved my
see,
goal.
this is the thing. Me and Michael used to have this conversation all the time, and why I believe I'm a humanist, so you date who you want to date. But I said personally, I would never seriously date a white woman, and Michael used to always ask me why. I said, excuse me. I said, because women have a tendency, this also leads into a woman calling a man a bitch, as you sat there and pointed out. Whenever they try to get a reaction and hurt you the most, if I am in a relationship with a white woman and she's mad at me, and women, this, y'all want to hurt the dude. The first thing that's gonna come out of her mouth is not bitch. First thing gonna come out of her mouth is N word. And you're like, I always tell Michael, yep, I just waited for the N word moment. Because it's gonna come out. And whether she's trying to do it as a racial slur or not isn't necessarily the factor here. It's the fact that you don't piss me off and I want to cut your balls off. So so I want to bring that up because women do that with the bitch word when they
Uh,
call the man a bitch.
yeah, me and Reggie disagree on that. And what makes it so interesting is that I've never dated a white woman before, and shoot, not to say that I'm not open to it now. Shoot, I'm starting to wonder now.
Oh,
Reggie,
cancellation.
have you
Cancel culture, baby. Cancel culture.
have you ever dated a white woman? I don't remember. I know you've dated other ethnicities, but have you ever
Hold
dated
up.
specifically
We
white?
you going back. I don't date.
Have you ever? Was the question.
No.
Okay. So it's funny that we have these opinions on that, and I don't necessarily agree with Reggie. And what
Why
makes it
not? You know women do that to cut your balls off.
I just considering the amount of interracial relationships that we're seeing in this day and age, I find it hard to believe that the majority of those um, have had to go through the experience of the one calling the other at N. I just find that hard to believe, and they still maintained a civil relationship. Yeah, I just don't necessarily believe that.
Okay.
But
You're wrong, but okay.
and that's the whole thing. It's like
Still a woman.
we don't have like personal respect experiences to like rely on to argue this, so it's like we're arguing in the wind. But
Actually, I said we call Clarence Thomas to find out. Actually, no. There. Wait a minute. There was one. What was the Haywood? Haywood, the offensive lineman or defensive lineman.
what his wife
Albert Haywood. There you go. There we go.
was
Yeah, his wife. Yeah, that's one of the things. I think it was. Their divorce got real nasty, and one of the things that he said was, because he accused her of emotionally and verbally abusing him, and that was one of the phrases that she used to use against him. I was like, no, that's interesting.
man.
I kind of laughed at it though.
All I'll say about that is this: is that shoot, if she were trying to take half my money away from me, I'd say that too. That's the other part when we're really getting into it. It reminds me of Miles Garrett, who's a football player for the Cleveland Browns, who hit Mason Rudolph, a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, with his helmet, and he got suspended for a bunch of games and stuff like that. And then he was like, "Well, he called me the N word." That was his defense, and everybody, that all the other players, the black players that were around that scuffle or whatever, was like, "No, he didn't."
No, he didn't.
And then Miles Garrett, like they just played in the last game of the season, he actually went over to Mason Rudolph after the game and dapped him up. So my thing is, if this dude really called you the N word,
You
you're
ain't dapping him up.
him out to dap him up.
Yeah,
Whatever, man.
yeah, man.
But
Whatever. But back on topic.
back on topic, as far as this bitch thing goes, what's interesting about it is the difference when you call a man a bitch. It's the equivalent of slapping a man, which you should never do. There are three things that are really bad: spitting on someone,
Oh yeah, you getting
slapping
punched then.
someone, and calling a man a bitch. So it's like, now slapping a man with the back of your hand is worse than
The
in
baby
front of
powder.
you. But still, slapping in general is bad. Spitting on him and calling him a bitch. If I walk up to a dude and we having a conversation or we're having an argument or something, and I call him a bitch, we have to fight on that. It's like,
Yes, we're fighting on that.
yeah, so that's that. So that's interesting to me. But to and it's also interesting to me how our definitions differ. And I believe that there will be more men that would agree with me
I
as
agree
long
with
as we
that.
were having that conversation in privacy.
I agree with that. No, I totally agree with that one.
Yeah. Now, the other part that's really interesting, and I wanted to separate this, is when a woman calls a man a bitch. Now, obviously, when a woman calls a man a bitch, you can't fight them. So, just like many other things that a woman might do to a man, including slap him with the palm or the back of the hand, you kind of just have to take that, unless you're Chris Brown. Shout out.
Or spit on unless you Ray Rice.
Ooh, ooh, boy, she won't do that again. No. Um,
Not a one.
that's interesting. I've never been spit on by a woman. I've never had a woman hit me. I had a woman push me once, but never hit me. But I have had a woman call me a bitch before. And again, this was back in my 20s. And
Wow. I wow. I never had a woman call me a bitch, but I had one hit me and she almost got laid out.
like, punch, slap in
We
the
were in a
face,
car.
in the
Yeah, we were in a
chest.
car. I was driving. She smacked me. I pulled
Oh
the car over
shit.
and we were about to go.
Oh shoot. Because that's the part.
Because she didn't think that, I was gonna she thought I was gonna just keep driving and then say, what? Okay, you don't lost your ever loving light skinned mind. And pull that over and like we about to go to fisticuffs. It was that one experience where, I dated outside my preference. So she had some LBs on me. So she thought I was one of those. She thought I was a bitch. She didn't want to call me that, but she thought I was a bitch. She thought she could take me. I was like, look at high speed. I'm still a man, and I've been drinking my milk and eating my Wheaties. I'm about to beat your 200 plus light skinned ass right now.
Oh damn, 200 plus. She might have been able to take you.
No man.
Um,
Yeah, but I would have figured for her ass, and then the atomic knee drop.
what's funny is you hear more and more stories about women doing these types of things, and it's funny, and we might have discussed this before, but it cracks me up that women think that they can do that stuff with no consequences, whereas I know if
Hmm.
Reggie's driving someplace and I punch him in the face or slap him in the face, I'm gonna have to fight Reggie.
Hmm.
So it's like one of those deals where there's an action, there's an opposite, equal and opposite
And an
reaction.
opposite reaction.
And I understand this, and men understand this in a way that some women don't necessarily do. The bottom line is everybody need to keep their hands to themselves. Keep your
Pretty
hands
much.
inside the ride,
Hmm.
and we'll get along. But what's interesting about the woman thing, and part of the reason I wanted to separate this is because, um, you know, when dealing with women, and I don't really know what the definition of a bitch is to a woman when they're referring to a man. Surely it can't be when they call a man a bitch, they're saying that the man is acting like a woman. because surely they can't be saying that someone that's acting like them is
Them.
a negative thing.
surely
So
you surely you just.
yeah, so I'm curious as to what that means, because if I meet a woman and she acts like a dude, to me that's a positive. Um, but surely it just can't mean if a woman calls you a bitch, that means that you're acting like a woman. Surely it can't. But
I
Reggie,
think it is.
but
I
so
know it.
is that
Trust
like
me,
a form of self-hate then?
I do. Yeah, I
If
think so because we always hear that women don't get along with women and they don't like other women. You hear that crap all the time. So of course they are the exception to the rule. Always.
you know what's funny to me about that? It's funny because when I talk to women and I talk about women always saying, well, I like to be around men and women are petty and women are this and that and that.
Mhm.
And I say that to a women act like I'm just, I don't know what you're talking about. I love my girls and all of this stuff. And I'm like,
Clutching the pearls.
right. And I'm like, and not in that good way, to pearls
No,
and chucks. Um,
exactly.
but it trips me out. I'm like, okay, you love your girls, but you mean to tell me of all of your girls and all of this stuff, what I'm talking to you is a foreign concept. It's like the fact you've never heard a woman say, I don't like other women. I get along better with dudes. And it's just like, oh my goodness, no. It's like, come on now. How have I heard this a million times and you've never heard it once?
Heard it a million times, but apparently, yeah. Come on
And,
now.
and then women tell me, well, I don't know the women that you're dealing with.
Yep, that's the other line.
I'm like,
Yep.
come on now.
Come
Let's
on.
just be real about what it is. It's like, okay, you can say that you're different. You can say that, even though that might be a lie. I don't know. But
Might
to say,
be.
but to, s-
Might be.
but to say you're totally clueless to this idea that there are women, a lot of women, some might say the majority of women. I'll take it even a step further. I have several women that I know that are in my life that have told me when they've gone on job interviews and
Mhm.
when they've walked in and they saw that the interviewer was a woman, they're like,
Mhm.
I'm not getting this job.
I'm not getting this job.
And that's not necessarily to it's definitely not to bash women or anything like that, but just being realistic and just saying this is not something that like we're going off on, or Reggie's just on one of his rants about. These are things that you actually witness and actually hear from people who are honest. So it's like, let's just be real with it. So bringing it back to the whole thing about the bitch thing, if it is as simple as a woman saying, stop acting like me or stop acting like my gender, then that is interesting and something that I would like to know from someone who can totally be honest about that.
Have
But
your balls drop and yeah.
yeah,
Because they have these they have these expectations and these image of what a quote unquote real man is. So I think that also plays into it also. So yeah.
well, it also plays into the whole thing about vulnerability,
Mm.
because you know,
Spell it.
right, a lot of women that I talk to, they talk about how they want a sensitive man. They want a man who's in touch with his emotions. They want a man who's more in tune
All that
with
Ralph
them.
Tresvant.
Yeah, more in tune with them in terms of what a woman needs and things like that. So when you ask these same women, well, where's the line? Where's the line between being vulnerable and showing that, being sensitive and showing that, versus doing too much and being a bitch? And the reason that there has to be a line is because simply, if you, for a person that says they want a man to be vulnerable, if you ask them if they've ever called a man a bitch or thought of a man as a bitch, they'll say, well, yeah, okay, so what made him a bitch? And the answers that you get from that are never really clear. It's almost like you'll get laughter, or you'll
Mm-hmm.
get like, well, there's just a difference. You just kind of know. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of know, but how does the dude know? So it's like, does he is is he crying over this? Is this cool? If he's crying over that, is that cool? Is he checking in on you too much? Is that cool? Is he not checking in enough? Is that cool? And it's like part of And not to get too deep into different races and things like that, but part of, from what I've heard from Black women in particular about why they love Black men, is because of that strength, that sense of protection. And why they necessarily don't necessarily like white men is because they see white men as too soft or whatever, even though those are generalizations that aren't
Boy,
necessarily true.
they never seen the Marlboro Man?
Right. John Wayne's racist ass.
Exactly. John Wayne wasn't no goddamn dress, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. He drank milk and hated blacks.
Pretty
Well,
much.
yeah. But it's always interesting, and I never can get an idea from a woman where that line is. And so, if you're a man, n- as we went over, one of the top three things that you can do to a man is call him a bitch, which speaks to how one of the last things that he wants to do is exhibit bitch like behavior. How do you determine, if you're a guy dating a woman who doesn't want a bitch but wants you to be vulnerable, what the difference is? So that's one of the things that I always wonder about and contemplate, but can't figure out because I don't really get an answer on that. Are you there?
Yep, having technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Okay. Just take your time and let me know when you come back.
Well, I can still talk, so I
Oh,
hear you and everything, but
okay.
the mic went, the camera went out because apparently, well, there's no apparently, the cat decided that it wanted to chew on the cord
Yeah.
of the camera.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well, okay. Well, chime in when you can.
alrighty.
So that's the thing that really confuses me. And that's the thing that confuses most men, because that same woman that will say that she wants a man to be more sensitive and vulnerable is the same woman that will say, acknowledge that there are men who are bitches in this world.
Actually, I think I have something to say about that. I had an aha moment. It's more so the fact that they don't want us to be vulnerable. They just want us to be more like their girlfriends and read their minds and shit. And like, I'm not your girlfriend. I don't want to be your girlfriend. So, I'm not going, well, I may go shopping with you, but all the other shit ain't happening.
Well, I wonder if the girlfriends really do read their minds, or if they are more open to their girlfriends. I can't see a girlfriend being that intuitive to be like, okay, something's wrong, and let me do all of these things and then she'll tell me. To me, it seems more like a woman will go up to her girlfriends and be like, hey, this is going on, this is whack, and blah blah blah, and then they'll like have a kumbaya moment. So I don't necessarily know.
I don't know either, but how many times have, you know, your woman say, I just want you to read my mind. And, as if, they're into, we always give women the past that they're more emotional and intuitive than we are and all that bullshit. It's like, if you were that damn intuitive, you should realize I shouldn't have to say shit to you. You should just read it like the great Swami Johnny Carson. Put the little card in, and the number is 3.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. You've been married for a long time, but still you're the person that will cry when I Am Legend's dog got shot.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
Why did they kill the dog?
Did you always feel comfortable being vulnerable around your wife, or was it something that you had to see where she was first? Did you dip your toe in the water, or were you just like, this is me and I'm going to be me, and she just has to deal with it and think I'm a bitch?
Pretty much, this is me.
Okay.
I've
And
always had, you know me forever. I've always had that quote unquote feminine tendency sometime. And personally, I don't really give a fuck unless a guy called me a bitch and then we're fighting. You see how feminine I am then.
so was there ever a moment in your, well, if you want to speak about your marriage or in any other relationship before your marriage, where you felt like your vulnerability wasn't necessarily being met with the appropriate amount of respect?
Yeah.
Okay. And when that happened, what was your reaction to that? To pull back, or was it to like confront it and be like, look, I need more from you. I need more from you on this. Or I don't like the way that you're looking at me or talking to me right now.
I confronted it. It was pretty much like I give you an example. It's not necessarily it's the cleaned up version of the woman calling you a bitch. It's like, why don't you act like a man? And I'm like, excuse me? And
Oh, that's what somebody actually said.
yeah, well, the wife said it.
Oh,
And it was like, I'm like, excuse me. And of course, the bass dropped and she's like, oh shit. Said, oh, you want me to act like a man now? Oh, okay. So you call me like you said, oh, so you call me a bitch? Oh, okay. So she backtracked real quick. So, it also goes to the little things that, well, that's a man's role and all this. Like I said, they pretty much stereotype us. And when you don't fit that stereotype, that's more than likely the time you're going to get those little jabs.
So when that happened, did you know from her perspective what a man would have normally done in that situation?
Well, in that particular situation, it was take the trash out. So what I did was,
Oh,
sit there. Well, I can't be a man today, so I guess you got to be the man to take the damn trash out. And I walked out the door.
dude, I was talking to you about vulnerability, not taking the trash out.
Hey man, she was pissed off at me because I did something. I don't know. At the time, I didn't care.
Oh boy, that renders that whole thing null and void. We got a couple minutes left. Are you still trying to work out your video issues, which I can't see amongst the complaints we get about the show? People are talking on YouTube about I can't see Reggie enough. So
What do you mean you can't see me enough?
I'm
I'm in a
just saying
bright
because
orange. I'm in a bright orange. Oh well, you can't see it now.
yeah, we can't see it. That's what I'm saying. You've been out off the camera for the last like 5 minutes or so,
Oh
which I'm sure will drive the ladies crazy.
yeah, right.
But just in wrapping that up, the point in all of that is just that we probably should let the bitch thing go. And for women that will refer to a man as a bitch, but also want him to be vulnerable, I think you need to define where that line is.
Make up your
And
goddamn mind what you want.
yeah, yeah, because the one thing about women is that we, well, most men accept that women are more sensitive than men, even though some women try to fake that they're not, even though it always winds up coming out in the wash.
Always.
Yep. But we accept the good and the bad that comes with your sensitivities. It's like crying for stuff that makes no sense to us.
That one.
We're not going to attack you all or think less of you all because you do that, because that's what you accept when you want someone that's truly vulnerable. And for women out there, that's the same kind of thing that you should expect. You have to expect if you truly want someone that's sensitive and expressive, it's not always going to come out in the ways that you would like. And that's fine. Um, but you have to see it as fine. You can't think of them as soft or a bitch or whatever. You can't pick and choose. You have to take all or nothing with that one. But that's all I have. You got anything else on that before we sign out?
No, I'm
Okay.
pretty good on that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about all those rants I went on in the beginning, especially about the entrepreneurship. Datingwhileadulting.com, Dating While Adulting the podcast. Until next time, goodbye.